welcome back to the BizBlend podcast, where strategy meets soul and bold business moves begin with real, raw conversations. I'm your host, Sana, listeners, and today we are diving deep into branding, but not the kind dressed up in buzzwords, filters, and hashtags. We're talking real identity, raw storytelling, and unapologetic truth. And joining us is the no fluff branding disruptor himself, Deevo Tindall. Now, let me share a bit about him. He is the host of the Branding Laboratory, a brand architect, and a voice that challenges you to stop performing and start building from who you truly are. And Devo helps entrepreneurs and leaders create magnetic brands, but rooted in identity, not just imitation. So, if you are tired of branding advice, the generic ones, and those which sound like, Pinterest quote, buckle up because this conversation is going to be really, really interesting and insightful, of course. So, with that, Devo, welcome to the show. And I'm really, really honored to have you here with us.
Thank you. The honor's mine. I like that intro. Buckle up. You never know what's going to happen on these shows. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome, Devo. Okay. Uh, of course, this particular line from the intro, it piqued my interest. So you say that branding from identity, not imitation. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, we live in a copycat world now with social media out there, and now AI integration and the proliferation of digital media. I was just reading a story this morning. This guy's doing a survey on LinkedIn and wanted to know if he had anyone who would contribute to his thought leadership survey on on people who were stealing other people's content and mimicking it and just sort of reusing it in an evergreen capacity. And one of the things that I teach my clients is centered around really developing your personal identity, your personal brand, because it's the unique elements that make you who you are that are going to differentiate you from everyone else doing the exact same thing. So if Devo and Sana do the exact same thing, let's just pretend we're marketing to the same people, we're talking to the same people, we're selling the same service, we do exactly the same thing, all things being equal. What's actually going to separate you from me is your personal unique qualities of who you are, your learned behaviors, your context, all of your understanding of how the world operates, how you show up in the world, your beliefs, your values, your philosophies. Everything that makes Sana is going to is going to seep into or bleed into your brand and how you show up in the world, how you treat customers, how you respond to clients, how you view contracts, how you do work, everything. And if you're just copying someone else, if you're just copying me, to use the example, then you're going to sound just like me and you're not differentiating yourself. So it's really important to build a brand that centers around Sana, a personal brand that centers around who you are, so that when you're marketing to your ideal client, you can stand out in their eyes and they can form an emotional connection with you because they see part of themselves in what they see in you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this is so true because in today's era where it's kind of convenient to jump onto the bandwagon of hashtags and trends, or what kind of content is generating the maximum number of views or engagement, it's very convenient to mimic that. Do you think it's ethically okay to do that? Uh, I mean, even if I'm copying someone's type of content, let's say they have a unique hook to it, and I'm trying to copy that, but maybe I'm just bringing a different flavor to it, which connects with my own personality. Is it okay, or is it something that is not going to work out in the long run?
Well, that's a layered discussion with a lot of subtleties and nuances, ethical or not ethical, right versus wrong. There's a lot of moral relativity going on in that space. And just to be frank with you, I don't think that there's a lot of original content on the planet to begin with. You know, if you take a look at some of the most prolific words that were ever written, let's just use the Bible for example.
Mm.
There is scripture that's thousands of years older than the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, that which is 2,500 years older, the Lao Tzu's 2,500 years older than the Bible. So just to borrow this whole idea of copying things, it's been going on since the beginning of time. Everything's a cycle. Everything's a repetitious vortex that just sort of repeats itself. And so, no, if I were to actually answer that question rhetorically, no, I don't think that it's unethical to take someone's idea or take someone's content or take someone's information and then retool it with your own unique perspective, because that's just the nature of humanity. I mean, animals do it in the wild, humans do it since the origin of time. There is very few original thought that actually exists on the planet. Where it starts to get a little bit blurry and crosses sort of the lines of unethical, if you will, is if you just take someone else's concept and then literally word for word parrot it back and call it your own, without at least lending where it came from or what you were inspired by. But no, I don't think it's unethical. But I do think there's a way to take content that exists already in the ecosystem of everything we're consuming and reframe it for your unique audience and from your unique perspective.
Hmm. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Do you wanna what kind of red flags you see? Identity red flags you see in brands that are too too much manufactured, or they look like, yeah, it's it's looking good on paper, but there is no actual essence in the messaging or whatever the brand is trying to identify themselves. And how can people start unraveling that, identify or realize that?
Well, I don't know if I would call them red flags. I think that everybody comes at information in their own unique perspective, right? So how two people receive information and interpret information is going to be uniquely different. So for me personally, as a consumer, whether I'm purchasing something, I look for information that touches me organically, that touches me emotionally, that compels me in one way or the other. And then I look for information. I look for data that supports my emotional resonance. So I look at reviews. I read their website. I go to their social media. I have conversations with them. I like to understand who I'm getting in, metaphorically, who I'm getting in bed with, who I'm purchasing from, whose time am I going to give my resources to, or whose energy am I going to give away in exchange for something? And again, everyone comes at that from a different perspective, and it really boils down to how do you feel about the consumption of that information, and making sure that there's some sort of qualitative or emotional resonance with you when you're consuming or purchasing or whatever it is you're doing. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. But and authenticity is a word now. It has, unfortunately become a buzzword, uh, and it has been tossed a lot around, whether it's content or it's marketing, it's ads or branding. So, what's your opinion on this? I mean, uh, sometimes it can look like too good to be true, or too much fluff, in just on the pretext of becoming authentic. What would you say on that?
So you want to know what, in the context of authenticity, what does
Yeah.
authentic mean to me?
Yeah, yeah, right.
I would say that being authentic means first and foremost being in alignment, and being in alignment with yourself and your values and what your beliefs are, and how do you want to show up in the world. And it means being consistent, and it means showing up as the same person in every room, whether I'm on a stage or I'm doing a one-on-one coaching session or I'm at home with my children. It's not a curated highlight reel. It's not polished and has a filter and I have perfect makeup on. It's not a brand voice that you turn on just for your social media. It's full alignment. It's how you show up in the grocery store and how you treat the clerk. It's how you treat the wait staff. It's how you treat your Uber driver. It's how you treat your family. It's how you treat your friends. It's how you show up every single time in every single moment. And I always tell my children, I have 2 teenage daughters and 3 from my partner. She has 3 of her own, and I always try to tell them, the purpose of being on this planet, in my opinion, is to be contributors, to be servants. And I don't mean that to sound cliche, but I genuinely believe that humans were not meant to be isolated in silos. I meant that we were here to show up authentically, to use your word, in full alignment and connect with other people consistently in the same way, shape, and form every single time. And authentic is about being clear and having clarity on what you believe, how you lead, what your philosophies are, what your values are, what you say yes to, what you say no to, what you walk away from. And it's not about just being raw for the sake of it. It's about being real enough to build something that lasts. Because when you and your brand and you and your life don't match up, people can feel that. People can see that. People have an emotional, the world is a vibration, like literally everything is a vibration. We think we're these physical shells just sort of like walking around in these bodies. And what I don't think a lot of people understand, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate this coming from where you are and sort of, Eastern methodologies, is that we are just energy vibes, right? And those energy vibes can sync up or cannot sync up. And being authentic means showing up as your true, genuine self with transparency and vulnerability and having congruence in that space so that when other people who are also energy vectors feel that, see that, taste that, they're in alignment with it as well. So that's how I would qualify authenticity.
Oh, wow, that's a wonderful explanation. Wonderful explanation. It's so much. Uh, there's so many parallels. When we discuss about marketing 101 or branding 101 in the boardrooms, um, in terms of voicing your brand, whether it's personal brand or about your product or your service or even your content. Um, and this really makes me, think about, storytelling. um, we always hear that your brand should have a story. Even if you as a person, you're putting some content out, let's say on LinkedIn or on social media platforms, there has to be a story behind that. We hear it all the time, but most people, Devo, that's what I believe, they aren't sure what parts of their story actually matter to their audience, and that's where it kind of becomes messy. This is personally, I have actually sometimes uh, fought, literally fought with myself. What part of my journey should I put up there? Maybe some particular moment which aligns with what my messaging should be, or something like that. So it has always been quite a confusing one for me. So what's your filter, or maybe more than one, deciding which parts of a story fuel a brand and which parts dilute it?
Well, I think I take that on a case by case basis. And sometimes it's driven by how I'm feeling, to be honest with you. I view social media differently than I think a lot of people do. So if we're going to use social media as the vehicle,
Mhm.
social media was designed to be what? Social. It wasn't designed to feature influencers. It wasn't designed to showcase your latest. I don't even know how to best explain this. But for me, social media was designed to be social with other people, to connect and create something. And maybe it's a collaboration, maybe it's an inspiration, maybe it's education. And so when I look at what I post, it's no different than what I told my children and what I said a few minutes ago. How can you add value in every moment in everything you do? And that also rings true for social media. And sometimes that's just telling a personal story. Like for example, 2 days ago, I took a whole day off of work and took my daughter up to the mountains and we went waterfall hunting. And I decided to share that on social media because it was a really cathartic experience for me by detaching from my office for the day and spending the day with my daughter and walking around in nature and jumping in and out of waterfalls. I sort of had this cathartic, inspirational experience. And it dawned on me that I should probably tell other people that it really doesn't hurt your life. It only helps your life to take some time off, to remember to take care of yourself, to remember to serve yourself, and to get outside in nature because checking out and detaching from the chaos that we spend our lives in working all day long, whether you're in the corporation or you're an entrepreneur, it's going to slowly whittle you down. And you have to take time to reset. And so I chose to post about my day with my daughter. And I think For me, where I draw the line in the sand is I try to look at social media as how can I entertain potentially, how can I educate potentially, how can I inspire, but in some way, shape, or form add value. And I don't look at it in a quantitative measure. I look at it in a singular level. How can I affect at least one person who might be inspired by what I shared today so that it helps their life? And so that's how I look at it. It's like, what about my story? What about my life could potentially affect someone else in a positive way? And I don't ever look at it from a negative perspective. I don't ever talk shit. I don't ever go me be mean to somebody. I don't ever bully. I just show up, to borrow your term, I show up authentically as me, and that sometimes has different layers to it. Does that make sense?
Mm, it definitely does. And I really like the fact that you honored the origin of the love. As a millennial, I can say the love we had with social media. It was meant to connect with people across borders, countries, time zones, re connect with your long lost friends or relatives or family members. Um, and sometimes share our frustration, maybe as you mentioned, those cathartic moments, some beautiful insights or learnings through blogs. I'm just kind of reminiscing the old days of good old social media with what we had. So I definitely loved how you began the answer with that.
Yeah, thank you.
One to share that. But do you also do you agree with this that um, even if the content is really valuable, sometimes founders or entrepreneurs, marketers, they have kind of a tendency to overshare in ways that lose clarity or connection.
Well, I think it goes back to your first question is authenticity. I think there is such a thing as oversharing. And I believe people overshare because they get caught up in the bandwagon and they get caught up in the compulsion to keep up with what they see everyone else is doing, right? So, we're not just posting, we're also consuming content. And if you're not careful, you can get caught up in this cyclone, this vortex of never-ending perpetuity of comparisonitis and looking at if I'm constantly watching your feed and I see that Sana is doing this and Sana has that and Sana bought this and Sana traveled there and Sana had this guest, I'm going to start getting subconsciously in this inside my head that Sana is really freaking cool and valuable, and I'm not as cool as Sana because I'm not doing any of those things. So we have to be very, very careful that when we're playing on social media, when we're deciding what to post, when we're showing up on social media, that we're showing up as us and we're showing up with value and with purpose and even sometimes a little bit of strategy. What's the reason why I'm on social media in the first place? Well, for me, my purpose, my why, my how, my what to be on social media is that I believe it is my moral obligation because I have some pretty good insights. I've lived a pretty good life. I've been subject and exposed to a lot of really cool things and really cool people, and I've learned a lot of things from all these people. And I think that I have a moral obligation to pay that forward and share it. And so I'm very, very careful about what I share from the standpoint of does it always educate? Does it always entertain? Does it inspire? Does it add value? And I'm careful not to get caught up in that vortex of just overconsumption and comparisonitis. And so, yeah, I think you have to ask yourself, why am I on social media? What can I bring to the table? Not focus on what everyone else is bringing to the table. What can I bring to the table? And if you can go back to that space, and this centers around your personal brand, who are you? What do you bring to the table? What value do you offer the world? What's your unique take? When you sit around the campfire tonight with your family and friends and you start telling stories, what is it about you that you could share with someone else that could potentially make their life a little bit better or make a connection between the two of them that you're telling the story to? And so, yeah, it's a very thin line that we have to toe when we're walking it, but it is very much possible to do properly.
I couldn't agree more with you on this. Couldn't agree more with this on the Tivo. That was really, really insightful. Really insightful. Um,
You're making me
Well,
feel really good about myself. Thank you.
I guess I did that part in the intro itself for you.
Whenever I'm feeling down and gloomy, I'm just gonna get on the phone with you. I'm like, "Hey, come on, talk me up, talk me up, talk me up."
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So, Diva, before we wrap it up, this conversation, it's truly capturing. To me, a few of the insights that you shared, it truly captured what I also, somewhere down in my heart, I believe when it comes to even uh, handling branding and being and social media being such an important part of branding these days, and AI and all the stuff coming in the picture. Somewhere down the line, I very strongly believe that the basics will remain intact, will remain same time to time. So, if our listeners they would like to connect with you and also listen to your podcast, the Branding Laboratory, what will be the best way?
I would say just go to my website. You can obviously find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. The Brand Storyteller, Diva, the Brand Storyteller. My website is thebrandstoryteller.com. You can find my podcast there if you want to be a guest yourself, Sana, or anyone else your listeners would like to come on the show. I'm happy to support that. There's an application for you to submit, and if you want to connect with me, you just send me a DM. I personally respond to all of my DMs, and it would be my honor to connect with you.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And thank you, Devo. I think this conversation was more than branding. It was definitely what I believe. It was a call to stop hiding behind what's on trend and start showing up with what's true and align with you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your insights.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show again. I really appreciate that.
So, to all the listeners, whether you are a founder, a creative, a marketer, or a leader who is shaping your space, let me share this that your story isn't just your past, it is your power. And if you enjoyed today's episode with Devo, don't forget to share it and subscribe to BizBlend and let us know what truth bomb hit home for you. And to connect with Devo, refer to the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep blending purpose with bold business moves. This is your host signing off. Thank you.